The 2023 World Superbike and MotoGP seasons have been incredibly competitive and exciting to watch, but after seeing the ebb and flow of both championships, I've come to the conclusion that the days of a World Superbike rider going to MotoGP and winning are long gone. In fact, I'll go so far as to state that a World Superbike rider will never compete in MotoGP again. So I love both series as much as each other, and was a fan of World Superbike before MotoGP, so I'm not biased. In fact, I'm pretty sad that I don't think a rider would not make the move to a success, because if they did, it would show how strong World Superbike is. However, before I go into the reasons why that will be the case, let us remind ourselves of the riders who have made the transition with varying levels of success. So since the World Superbike Championship started in 1988, the amount of riders who have had a go at MotoGP has been surprisingly low, around 40 or so over 40 years, with some only competing in a few races and fading away, but here are the most notable ones who made an impact. Scott Russell, the 1994 World Superbike champion, raced for 2 years in 500 GPs and had modest success, achieving 2 podiums and finishing 6th in the championship in 1966. Anthony Gobert, the Aussie, took Scott's place on the Muzzy Kawasaki in 1995, winning 2 races and then 3 more in 96. He then replaced Scott again in 500 GPs, but before he could get going, he failed a drugs test and was sacked by the team. This was a sad indication of his future life, a flawed but brilliant genius. Carl Fogarty, the 4-time World Superbike champion, had a few dalliances in GPs, entering as either a replacement or a wild card, but when he did, he was competitive, very nearly finishing 3rd in the 1993 British GP, but ended up 4th after the bike ran out of fuel on the final few corners. His last effort was in 1994, but he never started the race, claiming a hand injury, but it was more likely an excuse as the bike was very uncompetitive. Mick Doohan. Technically, the GP legend wasn't a fully fledged World Superbike rider, but was competing in AMA in 1988 when he was wildcarded in the Oran Park World Superbike round and promptly won both races, so we'll include him in the list, even though he then bypassed World Superbike and went straight to GPs in 1989. I think we all know the rest of the story. Troy Corser. Troy was the youngest ever winner of World Superbike in 1996 at the age of 25 and was picked up in 1997 by Yamaha to race in GPs. Unfortunately, he had a truncated season and only started 7 races before returning to World Superbikes, ultimately winning again in 2006. Troy Bayliss. Now, a few probably realise this, but Troy actually competed in 1 GP race on a 250 Suzuki in the 1997 Australian Grand Prix, so technically he shouldn't be on this list, but we can't leave him out, can we? Troy won 2 Superbike championships before moving to GPs with Ducati in 2003 and scored 3 podiums in his rookie season. However, 2004 was poor, mainly because the Ducati on him was an unrideable beast, so he moved to Honda in 2005 but was dogged by injury. The season was unsuccessful, so he returned to Superbikes in 2006. However, Troy did enter into GP legend by winning the last race of 2006 as a wildcard, a feat which has never been done before nor since in the top class. Colin Edwards, Bayliss's nemesis in Superbikes, beat him to the 2002 world title, and so Edwards also moved to GPs in 2003, riding the, well, unrideable Aprilia RS3, aka the Cube. 2004 saw him move to Honda and was much more competitive, finishing on the podium at Donington. 2005 he moved to Yamaha, a manufacturer he stayed with until 2011. An accomplished test rider, he was a significant number 2 to Rossi from 2006 to 2007 and then spent the rest of his time with Tech 3. Frustratingly, 2nd place would be his best position in the class, which he left to join the new CRT class in 2012, which he stuck with until halfway through 2014 when he decided enough was enough and he left GP for good. Neil Hodgson. By 2002 I could afford a Eurosport subscription to watch Superbikes live, and I became a firm fan of Neil on his GSE Ducati. With Troy and Colin leaving in 2003, Neil won the championship at a canter. Moving on to GP in 2004 with the Danton Ducati team was not easy at all, with the bike being almost unrideable and the team short on finance. It was a season to forget, and Neil moved on to the AMA Championship in America. I personally was very gutted for him, but what can you do? Rubens Zeus. Rubens finished second to Neil in 2003 and moved to the Dantin team with him. His more aggressive style suited the Ducati and Rubens got more out of it, finishing on the podium in the Qatar GP. Fortunately, his style didn't transfer to the Yamaha he was riding in 2005 and he had a poor season. He returned to Superbikes in 2006. Shane Byrne. Yes, a shout out to the BSB legend. After dominating the 2003 BSB season and winning the 2 Superbike rounds at Brands Hatch, he was contracted to Aprilia for 2004. This bike was a beast, and Shane recorded the brutal power delivery was something to behold. He missed a few races with injuries and then joined the ill-fated Roberts KTM team in 2005, which folded halfway through the season due to disputes over the engine and chassis ownership. Shane returned to BSB in 2006 and became the best ever in that championship. James Toseland. James followed in the same footsteps as Hodgson, first at GSE Racing and then at the factory Ducati in 2004, winning the championship from Razgatlıoğlu. He won again on a Honda in 2007, which was enough for a ride with the Tech 3 team in 2008 in GPs. He qualified a fantastic second on his debut, but the season tailed off as the team were on Michelin's in a Bridgestone dominated season. 2009 was even less successful, compounded by injuries and a bit of conflict with teammate Colin Edwards. He returned to the World Superbike paddock in 2010. Ben Spies. I never realised this, but Ben did a handful of wildcard races in GPs before he went to World Superbikes, riding a Suzuki in 2008. He finished 8th at Laguna Seca and remarkable 6th in Indianapolis. Suzuki inexplicably didn't sign him for GPs for the next season, so he went to Yamaha and World Superbikes for 2009, impressively winning the title in his rookie season. Yamaha moved Ben to GPs for 2010 and he was impressive again, winning Rookie of the Year. By 2011, he was up to speed and won the Aston GP by 8 seconds. He never won again, but anyone who could beat a teammate like Lorenzo is still a seriously talented rider. He sadly retired from racing in 2013 due to injury. Jonathan Ray. I know he only did 2 races of Honda, but I include him out of sheer frustration. He wasn't even a world champion when he got the call from Honda in 2012 to replace the injured Casey Stoner in the Repsol Honda team. He finished 8th in the San Marino race at Misano and 7th at Motorland Aragon in Spain. I remember at the time Jonathan saying he was there just to bring the bike home, not to try and make a name for himself. Oh, how I shook my head. Well, he did just that and returned to Superbikes, never to be seen again on a GP bike. Given a second chance, we can only wonder what he could have done. Cal Crutchlow. The last World Superbike race winner to move to GPs was Cal Crutchlow. World Supersport champion in 2009, Cal only spent 1 season in World Superbikes, winning 2 races at Silverstone. With his stock on the rise, Yamaha swiftly moved him to the Tech 3 team for 2011. Adapting quickly to the GP bike, he won Rookie of the Year and had 2 more successful years with Tech 3 before a big money move to Ducati to ride its new open class machine. He didn't fare as well as teammate Dovizioso, only achieving 1 podium for the year, and then he moved to LCR in 2015 and had a great time. In the 6 years he was with the team, winning 3 times. He retired in 2020 to earn some nice dollar as a test rider for Yamaha. I really rated Cal and miss his wit in the press conference and on the grid walks. Okay, so I've probably missed a few riders from that list, but that's the best of the crop that has made the move. So, what are the current riders in World Superbikes? Well, Bautista doesn't count as he made the opposite journey. Jonathan Ray is sadly, well, too old. And Toprak had his chance to test the M1 Yamaha in the mid-2023 season. But for whatever reason, he didn't shine as we'd hoped. He was about a second and a half off the pace. Personally, I don't think he really fancied it. What do you think? So, why will no rider from World Superbike win in GPs and almost as likely never compete in MotoGP? Well, there's lots and lots of reasons, but we'll boil it down to 4. 1. Different chassis. The principal difference between a Superbike and a GP bike chassis is that the GP is way stiffer. Even Ben Spies said this was the most challenging part to adapt to, as the chassis gave virtually no feel compared to his Superbike. Interestingly, what do you notice about the most recent riders who made a decent go of GP? Well, they all came riding the sweetest handling bike probably in MotoGP's history, the Yamaha M1. At least that bike gave them a chance. 2. Tyres. A whole video could be made on the difference between Pirelli and Michelin race tyres, but the different construction of the tool results in night and day characteristics when riding. Pirellis are used in almost every Superbike championship and give the riders that elusive feel due to the softer sidewall construction. Michelins have a much harder carcass construction, so as well as not flexing as much, they have a very narrow operating window. This means you must push the bike to activate them, which is an alien concept once you've ridden on Pirellis. 3. Time. Now consider how long it would take to adapt to the stiffer chassis and new tyres. More than a couple of races. When you are dealing in hundredths of a second to be competitive, being 1.5 off trying to adapt to a bike isn't going to give you much slack. Couple that with very limited pre-season testing, and even the best Superbike riders have nowhere near enough time to find the limit. Notwithstanding getting used to the bike, by the time a rider wins in Superbikes, he's usually too old to be considered for MotoGP anyway. 4. Competition. Finally, the most apparent barrier at the moment to crossing them to MotoGP is the amount of rider talent in Moto2 and Moto3. For example, Pedro Acosta won his first Moto3 race just in 2021, and 3 years later, he's stepping onto a MotoGP bike. Moto2 riders such as Firmino Aldeguer, Tony Arbolino, Iagora will always be above a Superbike rider on the team shopping list. Sorry, but Superbike riders just aren't on the radar anymore. Now there is a Superbike rider in the paddock though for 2024, Jake Dixon. But he has never been in the World Superbike Championship, so he wouldn't even be on my list. And as much as I love Jake, I fear his chance may have slipped by when he had a disaster at the British Grand Prix when he got, well, Darren Bindered. With all my heart, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong because I'm such a big fan of Jake. Even if he doesn't go in GPs, let's just hope he wins Moto2. I'm biased. Well, there you go, my biking friends. Let me know if you agree or disagree, and I'll try to answer all your comments.